Bienvenidos a la celebración del almuerzo mensual de la Cámara Americana de Comercio, correspondiente a agosto del año 2015, donde tendremos como orador invitado de honor al señor Gary Ward del Departamento de Energía de los Estados Unidos.
Embajador Brewster, integrantes de la mesa principal, miembros del gobierno dominicano y el cuerpo diplomático, conferencistas, panelistas y participantes de nuestro foro de energía limpia, miembros de la prensa y medios de comunicación, damas y caballeros, muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a este almuerzo mensual de la Cámara Americana de Comercio que este mes estamos celebrando dentro de nuestro cuarto foro de energía limpia. En estos momentos de sequía, huracanes y mucho calor, y con el país designado como uno de los países más vulnerables a cambios climáticos, el tema de energía limpia no podría ser más relevante. Por ende, somos sumamente complacidos tener con nosotros en el día de hoy como nuestro orador invitado y huésped de honor al señor Gary Ward, director de la Oficina de Asuntos de las Américas, de la Oficina de Asuntos Internacionales del Departamento de Energía de los Estados Unidos, una tarjeta bastante larga. Nuestro programa en el día de hoy es la presentación de la mesa principal, seguido inmediatamente por el almuerzo. Después del almuerzo, nuestro presidente Gustavo Tavares, presidente de Marítima Dominicana y presidente de nuestro consejo, va a presentar más formalmente nuestro orador. Y después de su presentación, señor Ward va a cambiar un poquito el parte de intercambio con el público. En vez de recibir preguntas por escrito, él va a estar circulando, hablando con ustedes en el estilo de Donahue, el nuevo Phil Donahue con nosotros. Entonces, yo creo que es una buena oportunidad de intercambiar con un alto funcionario del Departamento de Energía, específicamente sobre las iniciativas del gobierno estadounidense para la región.
Cuando la pasada semana nos anunciaron la formación de la tormenta Dani, a todos nos dio algo de miedo porque nos dijeron que existía la posibilidad de que nos impactara en forma de huracán. Pero también estoy seguro que muchos de ustedes pensaron a ver si trae agua y nos libre de esta sequía. Triste pero real. Estamos atravesando la peor sequía de los últimos 20 años. El Niño nos está afectando de manera muy fuerte y prueba de ello es que el pasado julio fue el mes más caluroso de la historia desde que se tiene registro. El incremento del calor es algo que estamos viviendo desde hace algunos años y lo vinculan con una época global de cambio climático. También desde hace años algunos pronostican que las próximas guerras serán por agua. Lo lamentable es que en vez de ocuparnos del tema del agua, hemos dejado de nuevo que nos azote el problema sin estar preparados para subsistir mientras dura. El 28 de julio, el director del INAPA, Alberto Holguín, decía que la provincia de Santo Domingo quedaba agua para apenas 30 días. Desde entonces, No ha llovido y estamos a punto de cumplir los 30 días. Nuestras presas registran niveles bajísimos de agua. Nuestras reservas están en el mínimo y agotándose. Nuestros campos no producen como deberían por falta de regadío. Nuestra gente se enferma por deshidratación y la reducción de la higiene. Y los técnicos, como el que nos visitó en la pasada reunión del Consejo de Directores, explican que el niño podría dejarse sentir aún más fuerte hasta octubre. Desde 1997, que fue el año más seco hasta ahora, tuvimos la oportunidad de tomar medidas públicas y privadas para mitigar y hasta evitar los efectos de la sequía que ahora nos afecta. Pero no lo hicimos y ahora solo nos queda volver a tomar acciones paliativas que alivian, pero no curan el mal que sufrimos. Podemos arreglar tuberías para evitar escapes y restringir su uso, pero poco más. Por eso, de cara al próximo azote del niño, que nos avisan ocurrirá hacia el 2020-2021, debemos aprender la lección y actuar consecuentemente. Los políticos han dejado perimir un proyecto de ley de agua en 4 ocasiones. Esperamos que la quinta sea la vencida y nuestra República Dominicana cuente con una legislación consistente, eficiente y provechosa en dicha materia. Pero sobre todo se necesita que las autoridades que deben velar por su cumplimiento realmente cumplan su rol. En dicha legislación debe haber artículos llamados a la recuperación y protección de fuentes acuíferas y subsuelos, regulación del uso del agua, creación de infraestructuras para su total aprovechamiento y sanción para quienes incumplan las disposiciones. Parte de las derivadas de dicha legislación tendría que ser la construcción de presas grandes y pequeñas que ayuden a utilizar gran parte de ese 60% del agua que fluye por nuestra geografía y llega al mar sin haber sido aprovechada. En fin, se trata de trabajar con todo aquello que nos permita manejar uno de los principales recursos para la vida. A título organizacional, animamos a nuestra membresía y sus familias a que tomen conciencia del valor del agua y la aprecien como es debido. Debemos saber usarla con moderación y responsabilidad y enseñar a los más pequeños a que lo hagan de la misma forma. De lo contrario, nuestros esfuerzos empresariales para tener un mejor y mayor crecimiento económico que nos permita tener un mejor y mayor desarrollo social para todos será en vano. Debemos conservar el agua para conservar la vida. Está en nuestras manos lograrlo. Ahora le presento a nuestro orador invitado. Gary Ward es actualmente el director de Asuntos Americanos de la Oficina Internacional del Departamento de Energía de los Estados Unidos. Anteriormente había ocupado el cargo de asistente del secretario para la Cooperación Energética Internacional. Precisamente un tema que ha estado vinculado desde que se unió al departamento en el 1989 y que le ha llevado a participar en numerosos conclaves y preparar diferentes informes. En su pasado cargo dirigió y coordinó las relaciones del departamento con otros países y numerosas organizaciones internacionales especializadas. Además, fue el responsable de monitorear y analizar los desarrollos del mercado global de energía y los factores internacionales, tanto políticos como económicos y estratégicos, que influían en dicho mercado. El señor Ward obtuvo su licenciatura en Ciencias Políticas en la Universidad Interamericana de San Juan, en Puerto Rico, y es doctor en Derecho Internacional por el Howard School of Law de Washington, D.C., así como miembro del Servicio Ejecutivo Senior del Gobierno de los Estados Unidos. Les dejo con don Gary Ward, a quien le doy las gracias por haber aceptado nuestra invitación, al igual que le doy las gracias a todos ustedes por acompañarnos. Buenas tardes.
I'd like to let you know that the bio that was just read by Gustavo, my wife wrote that for me, so I would like to thank her for embellishing all of the things that I have done over the years. Before I get started, I'd like to thank our U.S. Ambassador. I'd like to also thank his counterpart in Washington, D.C. and his team for getting us down here. And obviously, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to thank all of you for coming today. The Chamber, as usual, has put together a fantastic event, and I'm extremely happy to be here. I know they say that there's possibly a hurricane in the area that might disrupt some of the travel going back and forth to the United States. Seeing that I'm in the Dominican Republic, I hope the hurricane does come, because I want to stay here a lot longer. I am pleased to be here with you today to talk about the energy challenges facing the Caribbean and the tools at our disposal that can help address these challenges. I grew up in the Caribbean, in Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, so I have an appreciation of how people in this region run businesses, earn a living, live their lives. Access to reliable, affordable energy can have a huge impact on all aspects of the community and the economy. I also have a strong desire to play a role in the energy transformation that will take Caribbean nations to the next level in terms of quality of life, prosperity, and self-sufficiency. My goal for this speech is to give an overview of some of the activities that we're working on at the Department of Energy with partners in the Caribbean, and then to open up the discussion to hear from you that what your priorities are, where you want to go, and what you want to do. One of the conversations that I had with the ambassador very briefly this afternoon was the fact that we would like to be able to bring an energy trade mission to the Dominican Republic probably early next year. So after I give my presentation and give you an overview of some of the kinds of things that we're doing at the Department of Energy, what I'd like to be able to do is come out into the audience, talk a little bit with you, and really get a feel for what businesses like here in the Dominican Republic, what are the kinds of organizations and groups that we should be talking to, and how we should structure the trade mission working with the AMCHAM. With that said, the Obama administration is committed to working with countries across the Caribbean on energy supply, diversification to address the vulnerabilities and economic and human growth potential effects of dependency on fossil fuels and fluctuation in oil prices. I want to emphasize that in the U.S., we are confronting many of the same issues, not only here in the Caribbean and the Caribbean territories and our Caribbean territories, but on our mainland as well. We share a common stake in improving our energy security and economic reliance. Our expectations is that we learn from each other and attack and address all of the vulnerable issues that surround the energy sector. The Obama administration has put forward a number of policies and plans that guide our engagements and interactions with our neighbors in the Caribbean. 2 years ago, President Obama issued a climate action plan that outlines 3 key pillars. First is mitigation, which focuses on reducing our emissions domestically through clean energy technologies, nuclear power, and efficiency. Second, we focus on adaptation, which prepares our domestic infrastructure for climate change impacts that are already baked in as carbon already put into our atmosphere has its effect. And then the third and final pillar is the international cooperation with worldwide community to share and promote the use of renewable energy, energy conservation, emissions reducing measures. No nation is immune to the threat of climate change, and no single nation can prevent it. The United States government as a whole, and the Department of Energy in particular, we're working with nations around the world to address this challenge. We stand ready to collaborate with all countries that wish to increase their production of clean energy and prepare for the worsening impacts of climate change. In June 2014, Vice President Biden launched the Caribbean Energy Security Initiative. We call it CESI. CESI aims to boost energy security and sustainable economic growth in the region by attracting investment in clean energy through by focusing on 3 major pillars: improved governance, increased access to finance, strengthened coordination among energy donors, governments, and stakeholders. I'd like to give you a few more specifics on that, starting with the 3 areas that I discussed. On governance, in January 2015, the Vice President chaired the Caribbean Energy Security Summit in Washington, D.C., which included participation of heads of government and ministers from the Caribbean, regional stakeholders, bilateral partners, and other donors. The Dominican Republic participated in that. In fact, your minister at the time also met with the Secretary of Energy. In a joint statement, delegations agreed to pursue comprehensive energy diversification programs to facilitate the introduction of cleaner forms of energy in the Caribbean. In regards to financing, at the summit, the U.S. Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPEC, highlighted its new Caribbean-oriented deal team that will enable the agency to more aggressively support clean energy project development in the region. OPEC continues to build its pipeline in the region and has approximately 70 million in active projects currently under consideration. During a meeting with Caribbean heads of government in April 2015, President Obama announced the creation of a $20 million clean energy finance facility for the Caribbean and Central America. This facility will provide early-stage funding to catalyze greater private and public sector investment in clean energy projects. It will draw on the expertise of the U.S. Overseas Private Investment Corporation and the U.S. Trade Development Agency, in coordination with the U.S. Agency for International Development and our Department of State. In regards to donor coordination, the CARICOM Energy Unit is now working with the support of the World Bank to design and implement a mechanism to address the challenges of donor coordination and resource targeting. This structure will help rationalize clean energy planning and implementation in the Caribbean and create a platform for improved communication and coordination. In addition, during the April meeting, President Obama announced the creation of an energy security task force. The United States will partner with Caribbean and Central American countries in this task force to evaluate progress in our cooperation and identify concrete steps to advance energy sector reform, regional integration, and clean energy development. Secretary Moniz, my boss, has been a key champion for SESI and broad, clean energy cooperation between the U.S. and all of our Caribbean neighbors. The Secretary has participated in a host of engagements with the Caribbean to continue the technical and diplomatic momentum. The Secretary chaired the opening session of SESI Summit in Washington, D.C. in January, heavily supported in the U.S. Virgin Islands in March, attended the CARICOM Heads of Government Summit with President Obama in Jamaica in April, and hosted a Caribbean Roundtable at the Energy Climate Partnership of the Americas this past May in Mexico. In March 2015, DOE, the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Caribbean Central American Action hosted a Caribbean Clean Energy Technology Symposium in St. Thomas. This symposium convened public and private sector decision makers and technical experts to discuss barriers, opportunities, and possible priority projects in 4 key areas. The first one is energy and education and workforce capacity building. The second is buildings and energy efficiency. The third is electricity supply and baseload diversification. And the fourth is clean energy transportation. The seats, as we call it, working groups will serve as vehicles to share DOE programs, offices and DOE laboratory resources, host training and webinars, identify funding for projects, link experts in the U.S. and the Caribbean to share information as a platform to convene on an annual basis. Next year in Jamaica, probably about February or March sometime, we'll host a second seats meeting, and we hope to work closely with your chamber and many of the other organizations in the region to be able to put this together and make this successful and to make sure that we have private-public sector participation, and so that's not just government to government, because as you all know, private sector participation in these events is critical. Earlier this year, President Obama participated in the Summit of the Americas in Panama. His participation highlights the continuing commitment of the U.S. to the region and to a dialogue on shared challenges. Looking ahead, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas at ECPA is ushering a new area of Caribbean leadership in regional clean energy cooperation. The Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago are all participating in the steering committee that will plan the next ECPA ministerial in 2017, and I believe that it will be in Santiago, Chile. Now what I'd like to do is just step back a second, now that we've kind of phased or closed the work that we've been doing in the region, and just to be able to throw a number of facts and issues at you in regards to the Department of Energy, who we are, how we began in 1977, and what some of our efforts are in the programs and what our energy mix looks like. As I indicated, the Department of Energy was founded in 1977 and brought together two traditions, the legacy of the Manhattan Project and all of the energy-related programs that are until then scattered throughout the United States and the U.S. government. So basically, all of our energy programs were consolidated into the Department of Energy. The looming energy crisis of the 1970s required greater coordination and responsibility and a comprehensive and balanced national energy plan. Today, the United States is the world's largest energy consumer, with 1/4 of all energy in the United States going towards the transportation sector. American utility companies invested $7.2 billion in energy efficiency in 2013. Natural gas and renewable energy are the largest growing energy sources in the United States, both contributing to growing demand for energy in the residential, commercial, and industrial sectors. In 2014, U.S. investments in clean energy totaled $51.8 billion. Of that number, small-scale photovoltaic investment was $12.9 billion, asset finance was $4.4 billion for large-scale wind, and $140 million for just geothermal alone. Last year, electric generation in the United States was dominated by coal, 39%, followed by natural gas, which was at 27%, nuclear power, which was at 19%, and finally by renewables, which captured 13%, and petroleum was only 1%. Renewables in 2014 were divided up as followed: hydro 48%, wind 34%, biomass wood 8%, biomass waste 4%, geothermal 3%, and solar another 3%. Our Secretary of Energy, Moniz, has been quoted as saying recently that he expects renewables to make up 30 to 40% of the U.S. energy mix by 2030. Growth in U.S. energy production led by crude oil, natural gas, and only modest growth in demand reduces U.S. reliance on imported energy supplies. It is projected that energy imports and exports comes into balance in the United States in 2028. Net energy imports to the U.S. on the whole are falling. The net import share of crude oil and petroleum products supplied is projected to fall from 33% of total supply in 2013 to 17% of total supply in 2040. According to the Energy Information Agency, the United States will transition from being a modest net importer of natural gas to a net exporter by 2017. As the needs of the nation and the world have shifted over the decades, the Department of Energy has focused more on fostering international cooperation, on leading the global clean energy revolution, and on addressing the needs of a world facing climate change. At the Office of International Affairs, I have worked for decades with the Dominican Republic and with other Caribbean leaders on issues of fossil energy, energy security, and clean energy. Through my office, the Office of American Affairs, I spent a lot of time convening public and private sector stakeholders to share best practices and lessons learned, leading interagency working groups and advancing programs and partnerships to promote clean energy development and deployment across the Western Hemisphere. I'd like to highlight some of our key areas of focus and give you concrete examples of how we engage the Caribbean and the kinds of resources that are at your disposal through the Department and its 17 laboratories located all across the United States. Experts at DOE laboratories study and analyze a wide range of energy challenges and solutions that are applicable to countries and systems across the globe. My office regularly coordinates both video teleconferences and exchanges, interpersonal meetings to help countries set and achieve their energy goals. As an example, in October 2014, officials from the Dominican Republic and approximately 5 or 6 other countries participated in a renewable energy grid integration orientation visit organized by the Department of Energy, the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, and the Inter-American Development Bank. The delegation of 15 senior-level officials examined renewable energy policies, regulations, technologies, and financing, and opportunities that they could adopt to apply in their respective countries. While at NREL, the group discussed lessons learned and best practices to integrate renewable energy resources in the electricity grid, and toured the National Renewable Laboratories' $135 million Energy Systems Integration Facility, which we call ESIF, which tests how technologies such as solar modules, turbines, electric vehicles, smart grid appliances interact with each other and with the grid itself. The Department of Energy has substantial convening power, and part of our mandate includes hosting in person virtual meetings in order to share and exchange technical policy and regulatory information. DOE has convened a number of events to help advance the dialogue on the feasibility of natural gas market in the Caribbean, and after the IDB released its market feasibility study last year, we've been working with a number of companies in the region to look at liquefied natural gas as a viable opportunity or alternative for the region. On the heels of the recent announcement that DOE issued final authorization to American LNG to export domestically produced LNG to countries that do not have a free trade agreement with the United States, my office and the Office of Fossil Energy will host a discussion on natural gas in the Caribbean on October 19th at the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum called CREF in Miami, Florida. This workshop will engage both the private and public sector leaders across the entire natural gas supply chain in 3 key areas. 1, to clarify DOE's role in the export authorization process and clearing up any misconceptions about process length and environmental reviews. 2, to facilitate a technical discussion on natural gas power generation and the international natural gas market, including the types of contracts, any necessary regulatory challenges and changes, and technical consideration to establish a Caribbean natural gas market. To engage stakeholders on how to finance natural gas projects through multilateral financial institutions, deep-pocketed investors, and/or creative financing options in order to secure natural gas supplies. Please let me know if you would like an invitation to participate in this gathering. The Dominican Republic perspective is critical for any natural gas conversation in the Caribbean. In working with partners over the years, I understand the importance of sector-wide approaches to clean energy, particularly in the Caribbean. Efficiency gains in the hotel and hospitality sector can make a tremendous impact to a hotel's bottom line, the environment, and the overall domestic and regional economies. As a result, my office has developed a program we are calling CHEER, the Caribbean Hotel Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Program. We are working with DOE's Pacific Northwest National Laboratory and the Overseas Private Investment Corporation to implement the program of CHEERS. The program aims to partner with hotels, such as this, that are committed to reducing their energy and water footprints. At the moment, DOE is looking for pilot projects with 2 or 3 hotels. We've been talking to your government, and I hope to be able to have a similar conversation with your hotel association and with the chamber, to develop a pilot project that would provide technical assistance, training, attractive financing to support clean energy retrofits, and identify energy and water saving practices that will translate into financial savings without sacrificing the quality of the guest experience. My office looks to support or to provide support to projects that can be scaled up and replicated in the Caribbean and across the Western Hemisphere. Smart grid and microgrid systems is another area that the Department of Energy has actively worked in. Those can be clear examples of how DOE can use its technical expertise to demonstrate how countries can enhance the diversification, reliability, survivability, and resiliency of the electricity grids. DOE's Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability and the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, supported by the Office of International Affairs, are currently collaborating with the U.S. Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority on a pre-feasibility study for a microgrid pilot project at the William Roebuck Industrial Park on the island of St. Croix. The collaborators are currently assessing the feasibility of a microgrid system that would connect the industrial park to adjacent critical facilities, including an airport, FEMA facilities, National Guard barracks, a port, and other secured facilities. This proposed microgrid pre-feasibility study will link cost-effective renewable energy energy storage, and integrated demand response to existing fossil fuel-based generation. It will demonstrate the resilience and reliability of microgrids and showcase how they can enhance a country's ability to respond to and recover from natural disasters that are increasing in frequency and intensity in the Caribbean as a result of climate change. I look forward to sharing the results of this study with the partners across the Caribbean who may be interested in building similar microgrid systems in their countries. In almost every conversation I have with my counterparts in the Caribbean, the need for homegrown education, knowledge, building, information, human exchanges, and matching university curriculum with required job skills in the public and private sectors come up. As a result, energy education and capacity building has become one of DOE's key areas of focus in the Caribbean. Last week, DOE and the Organization of American States developed a clean energy transformation process that we've used before in Hawaii, throughout the Virgin Islands, and we look to be able to move that into the region. Through joint efforts with the Department of Defense, DOE will complement the first Smart Power Infrastructure demonstration in energy reliability and security, which we call SPIDERS, at the Pearl Harbor Air Force Base in Honolulu. The microgrid integrates renewables such as PV and wind energy. Finally, to sustain technical know-how in maintaining support grid technologies on the island, DOE has funded the Pacific Center for Advanced Technology Training to develop curriculum for smart grid technicians and the University of Hawaii to assist utilities and industry in training sustainable smart grid and energy workforces. We've made available DOE's Energy Transformation Island Playbook, which allows other countries to learn from the successes and failures of our efforts in our islands and our territories. Also, DOE has released an energy scenario planning tool that will help islands plan clean energy projects so that they're most likely to attract investment, capitalize on local resources, and meet island-specific energy needs. This tool builds upon the Island Playbook. The Clean Energy Solutions Center is another tool that we have available at the Department of Energy, and it offers a number of low-cost services to Caribbean governments. These include options to ask an expert for in-depth policy assistance on clean energy development and deployment. Libraries are online, collections of resources can be found, and this includes, but not limited to, clean energy policy briefs and other expert publications. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory's Greening Grid program and website also offers free training and resources to our Caribbean partners. Greening the Grid also offers an Ask the Expert feature that supports requests from government, utilities, regulators, and power system operators around the world to assist with the increasing proportion of renewable energy in their electricity supply. The Department of Energy's Office of Environmental or International Affairs serves as the main interlocutor between international partners in the programs, the laboratories, other resources offered by the U.S. government to assist our partners in the Caribbean. For example, the Department of Energy's Homes and Buildings Office maintains a Better Building Residential Program Solution Center with examples, strategies, and resources for residential energy efficiency programs. The our Solar Office has a Sunshot Initiative Ask an Expert service that can be used to propose technical questions to the experts that are available online 24/7 and through internet connections. Our Vehicle Technologies Office provides tools like calculators, interactive maps, and data searches in alternative fuels data centers. Every office at the Department of Energy has something to offer, and we can help you navigate all of this information and choose the right programs to collaborate with us. Thank you very much. Now this is where we can put this away finally, and now we can have a little bit of fun, and I can get an opportunity to understand what the environment, the business environment looks like here in the Dominican Republic. You can ask me questions in regards to how we collaborate with businesses and how we can cooperate. And so what I'd like to do is to start off with is just if I can see a show of hands. First, how many of you are involved in the energy sector in some form or fashion? Seems like it's everybody up here, huh? No, I see some of my good friends in the region. How many of you find your energy bill to be extremely costly? To take a, see, I knew I'd get everybody here, to find it extremely costly, rather, and cuts into your bottom line. Obviously, most of you here. And so what I'd like to do is, one, come down off the stage here a little bit, walk around the room, and so I'm going to play favorites at this table here, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how energy affects your business and the kinds of things that you've been working on here in the Dominican Republic.
Thank you. First, thank you, Gary, for your participation here today. Well, as a user, obviously, it has a very impact in my business. Mainly, I have an office, so maybe an industrial company or a commercial one could be more hurt but obviously for our economy, I will say, and in my sector, the cost of the energy has been a bottleneck for the economy in the last 40-some years, you know. So I think that energy is obviously one of the big issues in our economy, and as I mentioned, I think once we can have, let's say, no solution, but a better generation blend in our generation park, it will help not only industrial, commercial, for every user, houses, residents. So basically, this is one of the purposes of this event. Okay, to find solutions, find ways to get that.
Fantastic. One of the things they asked me when I told them that I was going to come out and talk to the gathering here today was whether I was Phil Donahue or Oprah. I had to say Oprah because with all that money I couldn't resist. What I'd like to be able to ask the group is, if there were one or two or three items that you think, as the United States Department of Energy, working with our fantastic ambassador and our U.S. Embassy here in the Dominican Republic, what would that be?
Capacity building.
Thank you. Hold on one second.
Capacity building.
Now, go ahead. When you say capacity building, we're talking about from an educational perspective, obviously. We're talking about in your energy ministries, in your governments. We're talking in your education facilities. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yes, I basically say that related of what you said, and I mean that we can get some examples of good practice that you in the United States and the rest of the developed countries have got that we can put into together and do the same in our country.
Capacity building, as I indicated before, and I'll come to you in 2 seconds, is one of the areas that's extremely important to the Department of Energy. And everywhere I go, that's what we hear. Whether we're working with energy ministries, whether we're working with educators, universities, or even when we're working at the high school level and even lower. One of the things our secretary did, or the department did rather, last week was we signed an agreement with the Organization of American States. And we've put together a series of materials to teach young kids in the elementary school, they can be utilized at the university level. So they're different sizes, not sizes, excuse me. They're different types of curriculum that explain the energy sector and begins to educate the youth, businesses, educators as a whole. These materials can be found in Spanish and English. We're going to be talking to your energy ministry tomorrow, and hopefully with them, with your Department of Education, to be able to see that how do we begin to put more of an energy curriculum, not only at your energy ministry, and to train and to assist those individuals there, the business community, but more importantly, begin to grow a group of individuals, and I believe you had your hand up, so I'm going to come to you in a second, but to be able to grow a group of young people that are going to be your leaders in your country as you start to look at energy for the future, which all of you know, and anybody that's been here in the Dominican Republic realizes how important that is.
Thank you. I wanted to add that I think it would be important if that in your efforts you could include that there could be alliances between companies, not necessarily incentives, but that would be good too, but also ways to promote that Dominican companies could have alliances and joint venture with U.S. companies in order to facilitate the transfer of technology and know-how in a more direct manner.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. And I think that's critical, especially when we start talking to an audience here that are all business owners or part of an organization that promotes business and investment in the Dominican Republic. One of the things that we'd like to do, and as I indicated before, I want to be able to garner some of this information like this piece, because we're big believers in putting together joint ventures. I think teaming U.S. companies with Dominican companies is critical for any kind of business activity that we seek to undertake here in the Dominican Republic. One, you know the market better than anybody else. Two, you know the trials and tribulations of doing business, whether it be regulations, permitting processes, et cetera. And then to be able to have that technological transfer, I think it's phenomenal, and I see it's excellent. And so ideas like that, working with the Chamber as we come down here in sometime next year, that's one of the areas that we're going to be pushing extremely hard. And if I don't do that, don't invite me back. I'll just have to sneak into the Dominican Republic. Any other questions? I was going to say, this is an easy group.
It's not a question, but it's a comment.
Okay.
That one of our problems as well is the loss of energy, because you can have all the capacity in the world, but if you cannot make such capacity get to the distribution, then you have a problem. So it's like try to how do I say? Try to mejorar. Well, try to make a better transmission, to improve the transmission of energy, to improve the distribution of energy as well, because not just the generation, not just the capacity.
Transmission.
Exactly.
Well, that's a big area that we work at the Department of Energy. We have an electricity reliability office. We gladly love to team up. Hopefully over the next couple of days with the assistance of the ambassador and his team, we'll have a series of meetings. We're going to be meeting with some of your electricity generators. Long transmission lines is always a problem, and the losses that occur to that. We have, within our Office of Reliance and Reliability and Sustainability, we have a smart grid office that not only talks about avoiding losses and using more effectively the electricity grid and the transmission of electricity, but we also have the incorporation of renewables and other energy efficiency technologies into that grid system, and how do you interface them and let them operate more effectively. But these are the kinds of things that I think it's important for you to get to our ambassador, his team, and his embassy, so that we can take it back to the United States and to the Department of Energy. I'm not here just to talk. I'm here to learn, I'm here to find out, and I'm here to see what we can do through our embassy to work with you to create that enormous problem, which is the high cost of electricity here and the lack of reliability and sustainability. Any other questions? Okay. She's going to make me walk a long way. I'm happy I didn't have that dessert. But as lovely as she is, it's worth the walk. See, now she comes with the microphone after I've walked all the way across the room. But that's okay.
Thank you for coming to the Dominican Republic. I was wondering if you could lay out what the ideas in the U.S. are in order to build some kind of natural gas corridor or something like that through the Caribbean, because the volatility in the prices are killing the natural gas market, as we saw this morning in the Dominican Republic. And perhaps it might be interesting to team, since natural gas is booming now in U.S., teaming with U.S. and developing some kind of agreement in order to build some sort of natural gas highway through the Caribbean and Central America.
Well, it was worth the walk over here. These are the kinds of questions that I like. In October, as I indicated in my presentation, we're going to be hosting a roundtable in Miami that will focus on natural gas. We'll discuss our permitting process in the United States and how gas can go to non-FTA countries, but Dominican Republic is part of AMCHAMDR. So there'll be discussions on that. And what we'd like to be able to do is to be able to discuss in a roundtable setting all of the value chain that's going to take place and needed to be able to bring liquefied natural gas to the Caribbean and to create that chain that you're talking about. Our secretary a couple of months ago was just in Jamaica with the president. We signed an agreement at that time with the Ministry of Energy to collaborate on natural gas, energy efficiency, and a number of different areas there. We've been in discussions with your energy ministry. We've talked, and hopefully while I'm here, I'll meet with AES, who obviously is extremely active and gives Dominican Republic a leg up as you start to look at that. And we've been working with the Inter-American Development Bank. If you have not seen it already, there's a two-part study on liquefied natural gas. You can find it on the IDB's website that discusses what their thinking is and what their study has presented to them in regards to liquefied natural gas. It's a costly process, obviously, but the technology is there. And building up that value chain is going to be extremely important. But an area that you address, the volatility, is really going to be an issue. But I was talking to a gentleman here today, and I believe he is with AES, not to just point out that one company, so excuse me, but I am in the Dominican Republic, so I have to do so. But I think the ability, as he indicated, to be able to do shorter-term contracts, I think will address some of that volatility. But at the Department of Energy, again, in our event in October, we'll have representatives from the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Barbados, all across the Caribbean, and that will be the issue, is how do we stop discussing it? What are the technologies that are available? How do we find the financing? And how do we make it happen? You know, we've been talking about there's different parts of the Caribbean, for example. Some are blessed with geothermal. And so that's another fuel source that's been being looked at and being developed in places like St. Lucia and also in Dominica, bringing in a number of the other Caribbean islands there. So we're looking at different solutions. We think it's important. We think energy and low electricity prices is important, but LNG is one of the answers, but obviously renewables and energy efficiency is critical. But thank you very much, and come back anytime. Anybody else? Okay, well I will wrap it up, and what I'd like to say is it's always a pleasure to be here in the Dominican Republic. I'm working on that storm to see if I can stay here. I'm going to have a chat with our ambassador, see if I can open up a small Department of Energy in his embassy. But I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and all the fantastic delegates. I'll be spending a day and a half, and the invitation to come here has been fantastic. And as you say in the Dominican Republic, mi casa es su casa. Muchas gracias por todo y hasta la próxima vez. Gracias.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gary Oprah Ward from the Department of Energy. Thanks for sharing the programs and policy initiatives that the U.S. government has developed to address our common challenges of energy security and mitigating climate change. And we very much look forward to working with you towards the mission next year and also in creating the conditions necessary to unleash private sector investment into these important project areas. Thank you all for participating in lunch. Also in the Clean Energy Forum, we're going to continue right after lunch for those who are continuing with the forum. Thank you all, including Mr. Ramon Ortega from PricewaterhouseCoopers, who we quoted in our remarks earlier this morning. Thank you all and have a good afternoon.